I used to think that certain kids have an aptitude for programming and others don't. And that some kids maybe just should do other things and maybe shouldn't do programming because they don't have the sort of a natural ability. Unlike yourself, I am not really well aware of the research and the literature and the standards and things like that, as I've mentioned to you. But I did read some of Joe Bowler's book. I forget the name of the one. But the idea is that everyone can be like a learner. So you don't say, I'm bad in math. You say, I'm a math learner. Mm-hmm. I'm curious what you think. Are there people who just shouldn't try to program, or should we try to teach everyone?
I mean, from an interest standpoint, I think there are some people who just aren't going to be interested in learning how to program. And I don't know if they should necessarily be forced if they don't want to learn something. However, from whether or not somebody can or cannot learn something, unless there's some kind of a neurological difference that's like preventing somebody from learning the sequencing involved with figuring out how to program, I think pretty much anyone can learn how to do it. Mm-hmm. So as an example, when I first started music, I started in 8th grade, and usually you start in that district in like 4th or 5th grade. So I started really late. And when I started, I was horrible, like couldn't keep like just a solid tempo going, like that kind of bad. But then when I got into college, I got a full ride. So within a 5-year span, I went from as bad as you can be starting to getting a full ride in percussion performance. So it's just a matter of whether or not you are willing to and able to devote the amount of time necessary to become an expert in something. Mm-hmm. And every domain is different. But having worked with kids who were really bad at programming to start with and then eventually became really good at it, I haven't seen examples yet where I'm like, yeah, you're just not cut out for this. Mm-hmm. But I have seen examples of, yeah, you're just not really interested in this, so you're not putting in the effort to learn it.
I've had some students recently who had the interest, but were moving kind of slowly. And that's been good for me because I think that makes me a better teacher. Mm-hmm. I've been lucky that most of my students have been pretty quick and highly motivated and have been able to learn really well. And that might mask deficiencies that I have as a teacher, and especially not as a formally trained teacher.
I have certainly had a lot of instances where kids might be moving at a different pace than others. And if they're moving slowly, sometimes it's just a matter of like reframing and looking at something from different perspectives. So let's say they don't understand conditionals. Having them try and incorporate if-else statements or case statements or whatever in different kinds of programs for different purposes might eventually help them understand it. But if they just keep trying to apply it in one way that's not working for them, then it might be, heading down a path that's not going to be fruitful. This excerpt was from podcast 17 of the CSK8 podcast, which is titled A Conversation with Professional Programmer and Educator Dave Briccetti. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds of more podcast episodes at jaredoleary.com or by simply searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app. So you can learn even more about computer science education.